Amateur Redneck Workshop. I'm Harold, and I'm going to do something really terribly dangerous and inadvisable today. I'm going to have an opinion. That's probably the worst thing you can have on social media, and you're really looking for trouble when you have an opinion. I can tell you that. That's pretty much just a fact. But anyway, hopefully you guys won't roast me too bad. You might not. But I'm pretty sure that's not a secret that we've had this virus sort of running through the country, and that we've had this lockdown and stay home business and all that. And everybody has got pretty strong opinions about it. There's hardly anybody with a lukewarm opinion. Some people, are terrified to leave the house, and some people are sick and tired of the whole thing. And unfortunately, I'm one of those guys that feels like we should have never done the isolation business in the first place. And I heard the gasps out there just then. Cruel idiot. Kill everyone. When it comes to people arguing about things and having their own opinions, there's a little poem that's it's really just right for this for you to read before you make a comment. It's one about the 6 men of Hindustan who had a great, affection for learning and such, and they all went to see an elephant, but they were all blind. And I'm going to put a link down here to the poem so that you can read it, because I know that you'll like it, and it'll probably change your perspective on arguing about things. I almost bet it will, buddy. Yeah. Well, let's take a look at Sweden. Sweden ignored the whole thing pretty much, and they didn't shut down. They didn't stay home, and their numbers are, as near as I can hear, the last I heard, their infection rate and death rate is not really any noticeable amount different from the rest of Europe. In fact, the only thing that's probably different about Sweden is they didn't wreck their economy like the rest of us did, And I think that, running to hide when there's something dangerous in the air is not going to help you, because the latest figures out of New York City, they were surprised to learn that 66% of the new infections were from people that stayed home. So that must not have done you much good. At least it didn't look like it. I think that we have to do like our ancestors that arrived here from Europe. They got here, and the Indians weren't terribly pleased to see them here. And after they found out that they were going to stay, they weren't very hospitable. In fact, you got to wander off into Indian territory, you could come back dead. And so it was pretty dangerous to go west, but still, they just kept on going west, knowing full well that a certain number of them was going to die. Now, that may sound horrible and mean and cruel, but life is a little tough sometimes, Life doesn't make any allowances for wimps and those who are afraid. Life makes all the rewards and puts them all out there for the people that will go ahead and walk into the fire, so to speak. All right? So that's enough of that particular opinion. What I really wanted to talk about was the machine hobby, machine tools. And sometimes people might ask, well, how do you get started with metalworking stuff? And it's traditional, it's been traditional in the past for guys to, hang around some factory that's shut down or machine shop closing out and buy their used equipment. And they take it home and they put in a pretty good amount of work, and they recover that equipment. And I'm sure there's a great deal of satisfaction in that, although I'm too lazy to do it myself. Restoring an old machines, that's a pretty big accomplishment, and you can't take that away from a guy, because once he's done it, he's done something, But if you just want to get started in the machine shop stuff, and you know for a fact that you really want to, there's no need in doing the things the hard way. Now, I'm cheap, and I always buy everything 3 times. pay twice as much for it because I start off buying the cheap thing that don't work right and doesn't last, and I buy another just a little bit more expensive thing that's doing no good and it doesn't last, and then I wind up in the end buying the good thing that I should have bought in the first place. So I spent twice as much on it, and that's human nature, I think. I see a lot of people do that. So if you're going to get involved in machine shop stuff and you're really sure you want to do it, there's a lot of different paths you can take, and one of those paths is just to buy new equipment. Your basic tools that you're going to find in a home shop. A guy's going to have a milling machine of some sort. He's going to have a lathe of some sort. He's going to have a saw to cut things of some sort, and he may have some welding equipment. So that's a lot of money, and especially if you start out to supply it all at one time. But then on the other hand, let's look at the guy that likes to go fishing. He's got a bass boat, and I looked at some bass boats on the local sporting goods store, and not the biggest boats, but respectable bass boats. And we're talking $15,000 to $20,000 for a boat. I had a boat one time, and it cost me a lot of money. It cost me probably as much storing it as it did owning it. Go out and buy the used equipment. You're going to put in, most of your time is going to be in restoring the stuff, instead of making things. And of course, you may not have any particular things you want to make anyway. It may be the whole game is restoring the old machines, make them look like new and work pretty near like new. But there's a closer way. If you really want to make things and start out right, just go ahead and buy yourself a Bridgeport clone. Buy yourself a gunsmith lathe. You can go to Grizzly or Precision Matthews, and for under $20,000 you can get a brand new, nice, respectable lathe and a brand new, nice, respectable mill. And you can throw in a bandsaw or chop saw or whatever to chop things up for you. And you'll have enough money left over. You could buy a good welding machine, like I don't know, Miller. You could buy a Miller or something like that. Get the good stuff, and then you won't have to buy it 3 or 4 times. And you won't be disappointed when you go to try to weld that half-inch piece of metal to find out that you're just making wrinkles on it or something. And my experience is buying a cheap plasma cutter. About 3/16 is the height of ambition for that thing. I can guarantee you. I've played with it. I've run through a ton of metal, and 3/16 is, it's a 50 amp machine, but it just don't do the same work as one of the big names 50 amp machines. I think it's because it can't get up the voltage. When they say you're moving current and your pressure is the voltage, well, my machine at 100 volts is probably pretty well maxed out. That's highest I see on it. And I see the big names, they're talking about 150 volts and stuff like that. So they got enough pressure to pull the current, to push the current through the wire. There's more there than meets the eye. Just because it's a 50 amp machine doesn't mean much. Anyway, you need to think about that. Do you want to buy a few old machines along and put in all the time to restore them? There's nothing wrong with that. Or do you want to just go ahead and bite the bullet? You could buy a cheap car for what I've lined out there. I imagine a lot of you driving cars that cost north of $40,000. Maybe you got a $65,000 pickup truck. For a fraction of that, you could have had brand new machine tools. That's my opinion on it. Now, there's another opinion that I'd like to bring into this, something that I hadn't mentioned. There's CNC. CNC is the way all the factories are making stuff now. And if you're a young guy and you're good with stuff like, Fusion 360, then CNC is for you. You can make your, design your product, your model, whatever you want to make. Stash the metal in a CNC machine and cut it out right there, way ahead. And I would say that, if you wanted to make a gear on that machine, it'd sit there and make it with an end mill instead of you having to have a rotary table and gear cutters and all these kind of other things. In fact, I think that the CNC machine, even though there's a lot of tooling that goes with them, they eliminate a lot of the tooling that the older machines use, because they do all these calculations themselves, and they move to the right places, and that may well be the way to go, because you can say you got a 440, Tormach 440, I think it said, or 4440. I don't remember the exact model number, but it starts about 11,000 something. And then you can buy all the tooling and everything, and it probably goes up to about 20,000. Well, this is not much out of the price of buying an old school milling, Bridgeport type milling machine, and an old school type gunsmith lathe. And I keep saying gunsmith lathes because they've got a big old hole down the spindle instead of a little hole. That's a handy thing to have. But anyway, you can sit there at your desk and draw it up in a CAD. Take the cheat code and load it into your, to your Tormach or whatever you got. There's probably a dozen different brands out there that don't, get too far out of that same price range. And you can make a really nice product right there. So that's something to think about. Don't be afraid to put the money in to get into whatever you're doing, because just getting your toe in the water a little bit, that's just going to cost you double. That's the fact of it. If you're going to do it right. Buy good machinery. Buy stuff big enough to do the job. Professional type stuff, and I think you'll be a lot happier with the results you get. And I know that we're talking a lot of money, but if the average person were to sit down and look at all the money I can do without, like I normally do. Well, anyway, think about it. And you guys that are, other creators and viewers and subscribers, I know you're going to have an opinion, so go at it down below, but try to keep the language civil, and if you call me enough bad names as to make me wonder about whether YouTube's going to censor the whole video, I'll probably just delete your comments. So keep it civil, okay? We're none of us wanting to kill anybody or be rude to each other. All right? That's it. Well, that's all, folks. Y'all try to subscribe if you're not already a subscriber. Leave a comment if you got something to say. And above all, remember, keep on keeping on. Bye now.